G'day guys, it's Stuart here from Dougie Bird's Tackle World, and we're doing the fishing report for the 4th and 5th of March 2023. The year's going very quickly, and I'm all by myself today. My mate Dougie, he's out fishing without me. So we'll get stuck straight into it. Guys, the weekend we had some good weather. We were fortunate enough to shoot out there early on Sunday morning before work, and we trolled up a couple of spotties and a schoolie just down Mermaid. The guys that went deep have been fishing really good, deep drop in, a couple of blue marlin caught over the weekend as well, and plenty inside as well. So we'll get straight into it, and we'll hopefully tell you what's going to happen this week. Unfortunately, this week the weather is not real flash again. However, Saturday we've got around about 20 to 25 knots of southeasterly wind. Sunday does look quite good at this stage. However, I do believe that there would probably be a bit of residual swell and a bit of residual wind left behind from that wind that's coming through tomorrow. And the swell's going to be around about that, so 1.5 to 2 meters type of thing, and a bit larger on the set. So I'd definitely wait until the sun's come up a little bit just across the seaway. Last week it was really good, hardly any swell, flat as, and it was a really easy crossing. However, this week might be a little bit different. So definitely have a look at it before you go out. Check that Wave Rider buoy. For those of you who haven't checked it before, it's just Gold Coast Wave Rider buoy. Type it into Google and it'll come up with a graph, and it'll tell you the size of the swell and the size of the sets that are coming through. And it's a good indication if it's rising or falling. So it's definitely worth checking it before you get to the seaway. So as I said last week, for the guys out really wide, so up off Point Lookout type area, out in around that, say 2 to 350 meters, there was a lot of fish caught deep drop in. So we're talking Alphons, flame snapper, barcod, blue eye, and all of that really nice stuff that comes out of that deep water. A few deep water kingies and stuff as well, out around that 250 meters. The guys getting the kingies has been mainly jigging, and all the other stuff's been mainly just using like a bottom rig. So a 3-hook Paternoster with a bit of weight on the bottom, generally around about 2 to 3 kilos in that depth. And there was a lot caught. The Alfonzinos or Alphons, definitely better on a jig. And in that depth, you want to be using something around about, say, 500 grams. So quite heavy. It is a bit hard to do manually. It's a fair bit of work, but it's not too bad. It's very rewarding when you catch fish out of that type of depth on manual fishing instead of the electric. But last week they bit really well. That's when the current was running south. Word on the street is I had a customer in today, and he was out there last night, and the current in around about like 24 to 36 fathoms has actually started running north again. So I haven't had a report like fishing wise since that current has turned around direction. However, generally it does get a little bit harder, unfortunately. But if you can get out of there on Sunday and the weather does do what it's going to say it does, should be all right. The other thing that's been really good this past week when the weather has been permitting has been mackerel. We caught our fish on Sunday just trolling slimies actually, or little pillies, just behind those pilly rigs that we've been making up. So that's that new head that Dougie was talking about last week. So it's got a little bit of a bib on it. There's still quite a fair bit of weight on there, so it does dive down. And the beauty of having that bib is it actually does wobble and swim a little bit. So we just rig them on about 38 to 50 pound single strand wire, just with a little black swivel on the top. So you just tie your lead off your braid. So run braid, preferably when you're trolling the bait rigs, just because your bait's going to swim a bit nicer. There's a bit less drag in the water and it'll swim a bit deeper. So run your braid to a leader, around about 6 foot, and then just tie straight onto that little black swivel. So nothing shiny above the actual lure or the bait, and then minimises your chances of getting bitten off. So they worked really well last week. The guys just out on the 18s, the 18 fathoms fished really good for Spanish. Not that you can do it now because we're unfortunately in another closure that started on the 1st and will run till the 21st. And then after that, you can obviously fish for them again. But there was a lot of Spanish caught on that 18 fathom reef, like around the Seaway Pinnacles. Guys just float lining pillies for snapper and stuff like that. Actually caught quite a few and got bitten off a fair bit. And apart from that, definitely slow trolling liveys and lures, of course, have been working really well. Obviously, because you can't do any Spanish mackerel fishing over the weekend or for the next couple of weeks, I'd definitely be focusing on either the spotties or like bottom fishing for snapper and tuskies and stuff like that. I generally fish around the 24s this time of year. The 18s has had quite a few good fish as well, but I just fish these little ball jigs, like that's a little Baku Shimano one and the Dokkan, but they work really good, guys. They're easy as to use, as we say all the time, and they just smash them. Particularly good if you got some kids in the boat or you got a spare rod and you just want to have something in the rod holder down there. These things work really well. And while we're offshore as well, the dollies have been a bit quiet on the fads if you want to be spinning or stick baiting or anything like that. But there's been a lot of bait schools of little white pillies and stuff like that out around pretty much straight behind the breakers to about the 24s. And there've been so many tuna in there. So we're talking striped tuna, little yellowfin, there's bonito in there and stuff like that as well. And of course mac tuna, which no one really likes, but they're good for crab bait if you're looking to put the pots in and catch a couple. But just spinning metals, anywhere from say 25 to 60 grams has been working a treat because that bait is quite small. And then I haven't tried these ones yet, but we just got them in the last week. But the Lou Williamson, like a casting jig, they're actually a little bit bent. Like the lure itself isn't a straight lure. They've got a little S-bend in them. So they actually swim a lot better. So these ones here, when they're a little bit finicky, can be quite good just sinking it down and just a bit slower retrieve. And they'll just kind of look a bit more natural through that bait school. We always say it as well, but it's quite important if you are going to fish those schools, try to get on the upwind side of them and cast back with the wind to the school. Just leave your motor running, but don't drive through the school or right up to it because you'll just push them down. And if everyone just kind of leapfrogs each other, it can be really enjoyable and a lot better fishing for all. Okay, moving inside now. Around the Seaway, it's been fishing quite well. Definitely on that run-in tide. And there's been a lot of tailor, even during summer. Tailor and lots of dart around that north wall. And I'd definitely be using smaller stuff. So I'd be throwing around that the whitewash band that would run around the northern wall of the Seaway. I'd be spinning small metals like around that 25 gram type size. Or if you want to chase a feed of dart, which are, look, I think they're really good. Dougie always gives me heaps for it. But I just use these little fused prawns. So either that one there, that's fairy dust. So if the water's really clear, I use something quite natural. And just on a little 1/8 jig head. And just throw it out, let it sink a little bit, and just a pretty constant retrieve with a few twitches of the rod. And if the water's got a bit of colour to it and you need a bit more silhouette, if it's a bit stirred up, just those little ones there. But they've been working really good, and you catch tailor and trevally and stuff on them as well. And then on the turn of the tide, there's been a lot of dewies and jacks around that northern wall hole as well. So I'd definitely try live bait in it, or jig in some larger type style soft plastics, like around that 5-inch type size. And just on about an ounce to half ounce to an ounce, depending on that tide. You just need constant bottom contact and not massive rips for the dewies or jacks in that hole. Just kind of hop it off the bottom. So you only want to work that, say, bottom metre of water, and because that's generally where they are hiding an ambush in that prey. So moving in a bit further, backer wave break's been fishing really good for whiting. Mainly on that run-in tide again. I'd be throwing unweighted yabbies or worms in quite shallow water. I had a bit of a look around there earlier in the week and just had a cruise over, and there's a lot of whiting in that shallow water. So yeah, no sinker or very little sinker if you need one, just to cast with that wind that we were going to have over the weekend. And you should be in for a feed of some quality whiting. That bank just north of Wavebreak as well, Carter's Bank I think it is, that fish is quite good as well. So just on that high tide, and we've got quite an early high tide at the moment, so you're going to have to probably start fishing quite early if you want that first of the run in. But if not, as long as that tide's running up, you will be catching fish. Flatties, heaps of flatties around, just around Crab Island, around the southern end of Ephraim Island's been fishing good. Over near Brown's Inlet, like along Stratty there, around the mooring lines, around Kurrajee. There's been a fair few fish along there. There's been a fair bit of bait over there as well, which definitely holds the fish in that type of area. We got these in a couple of weeks ago. This is just a little Cast Prodigy soft plastics. They've been working really good. White's definitely my favourite colour in them so far, just in that little size for the flatties. And I just rig them on about a 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce head, and fish them pretty slow this time of year. So during when flatties are feeding real hard, we rip real fast and work a lure really quickly. However, this time of year, everything's a bit doughy, and I'd be using that little, like a paddle tail, and fish it a little bit slower. While we're around that type of area as well, anyone that's been fishing the canals, there's been a lot of jacks. I think the Gold Coast Sport Fishing Club has a jack comp on this weekend. So there'll be a fair few of the boys out there trying to catch a couple. Good luck to everyone that's fishing it. But again, the Cast plastics have been really good. A little bit bigger, about that 4-inch type size. That colour there's blueback herring, and it's been working really good. And apart from that, the little splash prawns in the canals have been really good as well. So up around past Runaway Bay shops and all up in that Runaway Islands type area, the little splash prawns, just working them along, casting in past the pontoons to the rock walls and working them out. It's been absolutely dynamite. And if you're going to fish the main river, like around the Coomera or Nerang, I'd definitely be trying something a little bit heavier. So I'll throw some vibes just around those pontoons and rock bars and bridges and stuff like that. Quite natural colours. And of course, the little hard bodies have been going really good as well. That's just a little Jester. And a couple of mates of mine have been using these. You can run them straight out the box. They've got good hooks on them. And they've been working an absolute treat as well. I think that's about it for down this end. It's been fishing really good. The only other thing is there's been a fair few muddies around. So around that Aldershots type area, up the Pimpamar has been really good as well. It's a really good tide. You just have to try to get your pots in quite either the day before, and so you've got that nighttime tide and you can pick them up first thing in the morning because that tide's going to be high enough. But plenty of big muddies. There's been a few sandies out in the Burrell water just starting as well. Again, over along Stratty, like along that Kurrajee type stretch, and just on the edges of the channels. Make sure you don't put your pots too deep because they're going to be in the channel. You can't do it. It's a navigational hazard. You've definitely got to have them outside of the channel. Just on those on the edges has been quite good. Now up the pin, there's been plenty of tailor up the pin on that run-in tide of a morning. Still heaps of bait getting flushed in there, and there's been fishing quite good. There's been some decent size ones for this time of year as well, so up around that 40 to 50 type centimetre size. And again, spinning small metals or bycatch when people are chasing flatties and stuff with soft plastics. They've been catching quite a few tailor up there. The flatty fishing up there has been really good as well. I'd probably be trying around that new lagoon, which is that the furthest lagoon on South Stratty, so it's just inside the bar there, where all the boats anchor and stuff for the day. I'll be trying around those weed flats out the front of there, or over on Kalinga. I haven't heard of too many flatties up the back blocks at this time of year. Water's just a little bit too warm, so you want to fish that nice, clean, cooler water closer to the bar. Heaps of bream and whiting and stuff along Kalinga as well for the guys that want to anchor up and fish bait. Yabbies or worms have been really good, and you want to kind of keep it pretty fresh if you can. So the beach worms that we sell, just cured beach worms, are quite handy to have. You can keep them in the freezer. They've been working really good. If not, if you can catch them yourself live's definitely better, and yabbies as well if you can pump them. While we're at that end of town, there's been lots of crabs around Cabbage Tree and Jacob's Well type area. Again, get your pots up in those little feeder creeks during that big morning high tide. just because we haven't had any rain, so there's no point in putting them on the edges and stuff like that this time of year. They're all going to be up in those creeks. If we've had the rain, they definitely flush out, but at the moment they're still up that backwater type area. Up around Horizon Shores and Calypso Bay and that type of area, still plenty of jacks up around there as well, and been some good whiting just around the banks, around the bedrooms as well. So there's plenty happening. Prawn wise, I've heard of a few but not a heap, and I'd definitely be trying up the river. It's going to be quite hard because the tides are rather large, but this time of year on big tides you do get a few decent prawns around the southern and eastern side of Lamb Island as well. So up in that bottom end of the bay they kind of come in, and that's kind of where they park up first. So I'd be having a look around there if I wasn't up the river, trying like up the Logan, up around the pump station, behind the prawn farm at Mark's Rocks type area as well. However, it's just going to be a hard one. You've really got to do it on the turn of the tide. So have a look at the tides for the river. I didn't have a look before I'd done this, but yeah, it'd be later morning. So that's definitely worth the option. Definitely in the wind. You can get out of the wind a little bit, and there's a bit more shelter up the river as well. Apart from that, guys, bass fishing, like freshwater stuff, the dam's been fishing good again. The wild stuff, I've got a fair few mates that fish the creeks and stuff like that. So the top end of the Coomera and the top end of the Nerang, it's been really good as well. The smaller size splash prawns, so that's at 95 and the little 70mm one, have been working really, really well for the bass. And I've got a few other guys that have been fishing the deeper pools in the river and vibing around the trees in the dam as well, just with the new MMD soft vibes, and they've been working really good as well. So it's definitely worth a shot this weekend. There's plenty of options. As I said, keep an eye on the weather. Tomorrow does look like it will be blowing out, but Sunday at this stage is looking quite good. Keep an eye on that swell if you are looking to head out on Sunday. Just check it before you get to the seaway of the morning. But yeah, apart from that, guys, thank you. And if you need anything fishing wise, come down and see us. We're open all weekend, as every weekend, down at number 11-8 Centreview Drive, Bigger Waters. You'll find us. And yeah, too easy. Thanks, guys.